Welcome to Why We're Fans. I'm Duran, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Gennaro.
In all of our episodes, we cover the past, present, and the future of all your favorite NFL football teams.
We love hearing your stories, talking the NFL draft, and reminiscing about the good old days.
If you like the same, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this episode. And leave a comment below if you want to answer any of our questions.
Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on our latest interviews. And like we always say, win or lose, we're all fans. Enjoy this episode.
And welcome to another episode of Why We're Fans. It's your hosts, as you guys know already, Gennaro and Duran Munez. Duran, how's it going?
Good, man. We got a great team to talk about today. I think it's been a while since our last Commanders episode.
Yeah, it has been, and I'm pretty excited because negative, good, have you, whether it's Schneider or Tyler Heineke, coming on, man. It's always something good with Washington.
It's a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, lots to talk about for sure.
And I think all three of us have a chance at making a run in the playoffs.
We definitely do. How many times have you guys played them so far?
Do we got you one more time? Yeah.
Once. Yeah.
One more time.
At the end of the season, I think week 18. I think
week 18.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. They always do the
Yep.
division. Yeah, I see it here.
We got them next week. Niners got them next week.
Perfect. Right now, Bravada's giving you guys a 67% chance of making it to the playoffs. So I think we're all good here.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, all right. Without further ado, let's go and bring in our guest, Kyle. What's going on, man?
Hey, thank you, boys. I really do appreciate Gennaro and Duran. It's a pleasure to come on here. It's unfortunate, that we have a Cowboys fan here, but we'll be cordial and we'll be cool. We'll be cool about it. We'll be fine.
Hey, man, all NFC love right here, man. We got to find some common ground, right?
All right, absolutely, man. And especially with like the divisional, with the way everything's ramping up, I'm really hoping that all four teams make it into the playoffs. I just feel like the division needs that rivalry to be resurged and brought back,
Yeah, NFC East to NFC least, right? Or least
East to Beast.
Yeah,
how you guys do it? Yeah,
and it'll be the first time in history they added in the extra playoff team, so it'll be the first time in history if all four teams can make it in.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Which is really funny because, like, in years past, the NFC East would always have the team that like won the division that shouldn't have won the division and got into the playoffs.
Yep.
And it's just funny that the one year that they have it where they open up that extra slot, this happens.
Yep, of course.
If you want to go ahead and shout out anything you're working on, anything in the future that you have coming up, man, just now's your time, man. Check yourself out.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So I'm a host for the Burgundy Zone podcast that covers the Commanders. So we have like a lot of beat reporters on, a lot of fellow fans, some players that we bring on that we're close to, that we talk to, and we try to give a good analysis of the Commanders and try to not just stroke the same nonsense that's usually talked about with this team. We try to look at things with an optimistic view in a sense, but we're also real in the mindset of what reality is. But we try to understand that there's weight that carries with this Commanders team, and it's kind of hard to navigate these waters here in Washington, especially on social media nowadays, just because everything that's out there. But we hammer to it. We do it twice a week. We're on all we're on YouTube, all your social media podcasting channels, Twitter, Facebook. Type in the Burgundy Zone, the Podfather. You can find us, and then obviously on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that jazz that we're all over. But we do it twice a week, man. And honestly, we always say nothing else we'd rather be doing, to be perfectly honest. And like you said, the Commanders in Washington, they make it very easy on us over the past couple of years. There's been plenty to talk about all year long.
Give you guys plenty of content.
Dude, seriously. And it's a gold mine, really, in a lot of sense, because, the name change came around with all the speculation that just fueled over time. There's so many arguments about what should the new name be and what the mascot should be. And it was just so much nonsense and speculation was wasted. And a lot of just people waste a lot of time and energy on it.
Yeah, a lot of new content, a lot of new songs. Put your left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders?
Absolutely, dude. That thing's look, a lot of people argue that they wanted the Red Wolves, like they wanted to howl at the stadium. Yeah. And I went to a high school that has that howled the Coyotes, and I cannot stand it. I find it really annoying. And I feel like it would get annoying in a game when you're doing it constantly. You know, some drunk guy going, oh, you know,
Yeah.
sounding like Bobby Boucher in The Water Boy. But like, and that's not what you really like. For me, that's not really what I wanted. And so, because I always said, like, if you're gonna have something like that, it has to be authentic, and it has to be genuine. And it brings you back to like the Baby Shark of the Nats season, where as corny as it was a rallying cry. It was something that they cling to, that fuel, like, kind of gelled with the momentum that they took into the playoffs. And this type of thing, this song, as corny as it is, it's kind of just fluctuating on its own. It's genuine and it's authentic. And I think that's why Washington really does appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Well, for all your podcasts and all the links and everything, we'll put it down in the description below on this YouTube channel right now, and as well as our podcast. Go and smash and hit the follow button on his podcast as well as ours. Duran, do you have anything else before we get started?
Nope. Let's dig in.
All right. So before we dig in, let me pop open this beer real quick. Shout out to Cooperage. I think we got Common Ground that I'm drinking on right now.
We got the same thing.
Oh, hell yeah. There you go. But all right.
Minds think alike.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, Kyle. So let the fans know, how did it all start? How did you start becoming a Washington fan?
I became a Washington fan, was born into it. You could see baby pictures of me in Washington leather jackets that parents put their kids in the early 90s. But I grew up, I like to say I grew up disappointed on Sundays, just because I was born in 90. So obviously I was only one when they won that last Super Bowl. So I don't really remember anything. Yeah. And so I guess like all those years kind of like just gel together, to be perfectly honest, because it's just one accumulation. And it's like, it's the worst part is I feel like it's really depressing to say, but like going back and thinking when I'm talking to my buddy, we're drinking beers like we are now. We're just like chilling on summer night, just walking, talking about the Redskins and just being like, man, like, that we just like got Shanahan, right? Like we can be in the Super Bowl in like 4 to 5 years. Or no, it was Jason Campbell. We have Jason Campbell here. We can go to we could win a Super Bowl here soon in the next 5 years. Like it has to happen, right? And like think about that on a 10-year scale, looking back on something and being like, you wasted all that time thinking it was going to happen and it wasn't, And that's probably one of the most depressing things looking back on this team. But now I've changed my tune about them. I was really, I don't know. I guess I was just kind of angry in a sense with the team, with where they were. I think a lot of kids my age are, and I think that's a lot of the issues with the DMV, with having a lot of different teams here, because a lot of kids didn't want to grow up in high school cheering for a team that lost. It wasn't fun. You got picked on. You couldn't brag about anything during the school week.
Yeah.
So a lot of kids went to different avenues in other sense. But I like 2000, like Sean Taylor kind of helped in a sense with that. And then RG3 was kind of like the turning point of everything around here, where it was kind of like the revival of things, where it was like, okay, this can actually happen. But honestly, it goes before that with Mike Shanahan, because you thought that you had hope with Mike Shanahan. Jim Zorn was there, and you just knew that it was a puppet. You just knew that it was, a test dummy to an extent. And so when Shanahan came around, you're like, okay, this is hope. This is somebody that's going to take the reins. It's going to guide this team, bring them to the promised land where they need to be at, where they've been suffocating, back to the winner that it used to be, solid. And that gets ripped away, and you find out that, Snyder pulled the trigger on the RG3 trade. And it kind of brings that hope back down, where you had something great and then it crumples right in front of your eyes in 1 year. And then the hope rebuilds with Scott McLuhan. And you're thinking, okay, now we got somebody in the building that can read football players and get guys in the building.
Yeah.
And then Bruce Allen gets involved with it, crashes it all down. Then they go and get Jay Gruden. And you're not really excited about Jay Gruden, but it's better than Jim Zorn. In my mind, that's how I thought about it. And I liked Jay Gruden because I watched Hard Knocks when he was the OC with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And he was cussing at his guys. He was getting after his guys, but he was also joking around with them. So it's like, okay, this is a guy that gets it. He can talk to these. Like, for me, you have to be able to be a man to be able to talk to other men. And when you're at the NFL level, getting paid the way that you are, you cannot be inferior by any sense. And I didn't think Jay Gruden was. But it wasn't until later that we found out that chaotic situation, everything burned down. But ultimately, to land this plane, what I'm saying is now I've changed my tune because it was very doom and gloom in a sense. I wanted to see the bright, but like with Rivera, I actually do understand what's happening with the team. And a lot of people are very doom and gloom. They'll tell you this Rivera can't draft quarterbacks. They'll tell you that they can't draft players, they can't progress players. But this year has been kind of that coming to because Washington fans, as far back as you want to go to past 20 something years, the word rebuild was never used. And that was because they did not want to admit that they were going to be bad. Snyder always wanted to sell tickets. And so it wasn't until Rivera came here where they actually were able to start building.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's
man,
what I believe.
That's pretty crazy. I forgot you guys had McLuhan as well. Yeah, he came from the 49ers. I remember that.
And that burned up in flames because he was apparently drinking on the job. It turned into a huge lawsuit with Bruce Allen against Washington for unlawfully firing him or something like that. So
yeah,
it's just chaos after chaos. And it's like for the first time ever with Rivera stepping in, you feel some stability. You feel actually somebody building a football team the way it's supposed to be built and not in these patchwork kind of quick schemes where they blow up in your face. This is actual real building. And Washington fans aren't accustomed to that. They're not used to that. And that's why this process for them is very long and drawn out and they cannot stand it. And I understand that. But finally, with a winning record, this is uncharted territory for us, really. Because usually all of our playoff appearances, we're going on like a 7-game winning streak to at the end of the season. We always start out slow. This time we're actually kind of in control of our own destiny to an extent. And so that's what kind of changes things where it's like, okay, this is what Rivera was building. And even though everyone keeps crapping on the quarterback, they're still getting it done. And there's something to be said for that.
Saying a lot about that.
Yeah.
I know you said you weren't old enough to see that 1991 Super Bowl, but how many generations does the Commander fanhood go back? Do you have your dad, your grandpa? Do you have any kids that you're passing it down to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my grandpa was a Redskins fan. My dad, Redskins fan. One of my our last pictures actually of my grandpa is him standing in one of the at FedEx Field at one of the stadium seats. So that's always something we hold close to us. But yeah, the whole family is Redskins fans, and it's awesome to actually be that my wife is a Redskins fan as well. Her father-in-law is, and so he was happy to find that out when I met him that I was also a fellow Redskins fan. So he was kind of dreading of being a Cowboy or Eagles fan.
Unacceptable.
But he said that was probably the one good thing. That's probably why the only reason why I stuck around. And I can understand that.
At least you have something to talk about on Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And then I have 2 kids. My son Cash, he's about almost 2 years old. He came with us to a tour of FedEx Field. We were able to walk around FedEx Field, go onto the field with him. So yeah, he's going to be a Commanders fan, without a doubt. And then my daughter Corey, she's about 2 weeks old tomorrow, and the Commanders actually sent us a care package of stuff for her, like little pom poms, like little outfits for her, and then like a little Mando. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Mando, the mascot, the dog. Little stuffed animal of that for her. So without a doubt, she will be a Commanders fan because I'm gonna make sure she knows that.
That's the stuff we need to hear. Yeah, Commanders sending out stuff to people with new kids. That's awesome.
Hey, not many kids. I said not many kids are given that, and that's really cool, man.
Yeah,
the good things are building up, man, and it sucks because when everything seems to be coming down with like the Snyder fiasco and everything, like things are still like really looking up. And that's what sucks about watching is like you feel like nothing is sustainable. And that's where like the hope aspect gets into it because there's no telling that the new owner would step in and keep all these guys around and they won't believe in what they're building. So we're just right back to where we were before. So just more waiting, I guess.
Yeah, man. I think it's awesome that, the Commanders gave, your daughter Corey, maybe her first memorabilia with Mando. Do you remember your first memorabilia? Like your first jersey or something?
My first jersey. I'm pretty sure it was LeVar Arrington. I'm just trying to think back before that when I was a kid. Because I don't think I actually had any jerseys when I was a kid. But if I did, it was most likely Darryl Green. But my first jersey my dad got me was LeVar Arrington. Never forget that. The white 56 and I rock that around a lot.
Yeah, Penn State legend.
I like
Dude,
it.
absolutely.
I always like to know people that live in the area of their team. Did you ever get a chance to go to like training camp or practices or things like that?
Oh, absolutely. As a kid, I didn't really go, but as a young adult, I went with a couple of my sister's boyfriend. We all went with a couple of his buddies back in like 2005, 2006. And that was a wild time because there was a lot of people there. I mean, it was like it was so hot where it was like there's too many people, like a concert,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And so it was very hot, but I'll never forget somebody yelling at Santana Moss. It's like, I saw you at the club last night. Why you out here sweating or something like that? And Santana was laughing at him. I'll never forget that because I was like, that's awesome. Like that's
Yeah.
what you get at training camp here. That's really cool. But since then, I hadn't really gone until Ron Rivera took over. Until about 2021, when obviously COVID dissipated, where we went to training camp down in Richmond, and that was an insane time. The things that we saw, witnessed, and did, and we have a really funny inside joke because one of the guys there was really early in the morning, got there, and one of the players was like, there was a hot tub outside of the facility, and he had walked by, and the dude was getting out of the hot tub naked. He said, and so we have this inside joke that he saw Sasquatch at training camp that one year. But like we went to mini camp this past off season. I went with my son and my wife to training camp as well. So I've been to a couple games this year, but obviously the daughter being here was kind of a wrench into things up until this point. But been able to go to a couple games this year, thankfully. But yeah, man, did draft night for them, where it was something that I asked them about, where can we record from FedEx Field because you have this draft day party? Can we record from there? And that would be really cool if you could see the field and stuff. And so they granted us the access. Well, the next year they opened it up to way more people. And so first year was just me and this my other friend Freddie Ham. But in the following year it was like 8 of us, and we were interviewing Jonathan Allen, we were interviewing Logan Thomas, we were interviewing Kendall Fuller. I know London Fletcher came through there, Doug Williams came through. So it was a really, really cool time, and it's really crazy to think about where we are now, like as a show and just what we've done. It's because when we started out, that was like a dream. It was like, can you imagine, like, not like this type of interview, but being able to sit down? Obviously, this was huge as well, but just being able to interview players on podcasts. But our dream originally was like, could you imagine sitting down across from an active player and talking Commanders or Washington? And that was something that I was like, well, I made sure they knew. I was like, that's really cool of you guys, because it's crazy to think about 5 years ago that was even a possibility.
Yeah, especially with all the bad going around in your guys' organization right now. It's good to hear that they're still reaching out to the fans, making it about the fans for sure, and having you guys get granted access to that. So you mentioned that you've been to a couple of games recently. Do you remember your first or maybe your favorite game that you've been to?
Probably my most favorite game that I've been to was most likely the one when I went with my wife. We weren't married yet. We were just dating. But we went to the Ravens game in 2012. Unfortunately, it was the game where RG3 actually got injured, injured his knee originally. And Kirk Cousins actually won the game with a 2-point conversion on a quarterback sneak. I'll never forget, like, hold my wife and being so excited pulling her. She had like a belly piercing. She's like, stop, you're gonna rip it, But that was probably one of the most better times because I was there for the Monday Night Massacre against Philly. I've been there for some really, really bad games, and so the good ones are hard to come by up until recently. Like, we had horrible primetime record. Ron Rivera comes here and we're actually performing in primetime. And I was able to go and see them beat Seattle last year in prime time. I was able to see them beat the Giants last year in prime time. Ricky Seals-Jones does that crazy touchdown catch at the end of the end zone. Now, it's really cool, man, to be where they are now. It's hopefully it's sustainable, but I know at this point as a Washington fan, I shouldn't expect it.
So what kind of fan, I'm just curious, just because Duran, I know your lady's not a big football fan. My wife isn't either. How's your wife as a fan? Because like I know on Sunday or any kind of football day, my wife knows me to leave me alone. It's my time, even before the Niners play, because out here they play around 1 o'clock. So the 10 o'clock games I'll be watching on Red Zone. She knows to leave me alone. Right. is your wife the same way? I know you guys got kids or anything like that, or is she like just sitting there watching it with you guys? What's going on there?
Yeah, kids take precedent over everything. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what I'm doing. I better
Yeah.
get my ass up. But she is a football fan. She's a Washington fan, but she's not really like she doesn't watch the games or anything. She asked me like how the games go and stuff like that. But she's not all that much into it as I am, obviously. And
But
she
she'll go
puts
to
up with
games with you, it sounds like.
well, back in the day, she did. I think
Yeah.
she's smart. She knew how to get. You got to get to a man through his
Yeah.
heart, and she
Yeah,
she knew what
there
to
you
do.
go.
She knew
Yeah.
what she was doing. She's
Yeah, I
smart.
like that.
What's your memorabilia situation looking like? I know you got the 2 jerseys behind you, but do you have any autographs that you kind of hold close to you, or when you met any players, did you collect anything cool?
Well, honestly, dude, I'm not that dude. Like we went to training camp, we did all that just because like I'm 32, man. I don't need to be asking these 20-year-old kids
Yeah.
for autographs, like I don't need to be doing that. That being said, my brother-in-law BK has a friend who got his hands on the Taylor Heineke pylon against the
Oh,
Buccaneers, the one that he
nice.
dove to and touched the football on. He actually signed it and he got his hands on it and he gifted it to me. And so yeah, that's upstairs that I have, but that's like really the only autograph thing that I had. I find asking for autographs really awkward and
Yeah,
weird.
for sure.
I
That's a
understand.
perfect one.
Well, I understand that like it has value to an extent because people like to sell it and stuff like that. It's just like not my cup of tea, man.
Yeah, not to resell. I have stuff in here that I would never sell just because I went and met those players and did things
Oh
like
yeah.
that. So
Look, I
there's
don't
no
hate
way
on
I'm
anybody.
selling
I
it.
don't hate on
Yeah.
anybody that does it. It's just really awkward for me.
You
Like,
got to
cause
bring
like
the sun next
yeah.
and your daughter hold them up.
So that's gonna be different. Like I'll
Yeah.
do that for them, no doubt.
Can't really sit.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'll say is I won't do it for me, but for them, without a doubt, I'll have no shame
Yeah.
whatsoever. I'll be asking for all their autographs for them. No freaking doubt. You're absolutely right.
Yep. That's the last one for me, G, in this category.
Nah, I'm just looking it up right now, and I tried to show you guys, but you can't really see it through Zoom. But yeah, man, the freeze frame of the picture and then the signed autograph, man, that's amazing. We'll definitely retweet that from our Twitter for sure, so everybody else can see that as well. But yeah, I can't really think of anything at the moment. So you ready to move on, Duran?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So before you answer this, me and Duran have with this new season coming up, we have an ongoing bet. And so whoever gets the most right, gets 4-pack from Cooperage or whatever.
Okay.
We'll settle a beer debt. But don't answer yet. We're gonna guess first, but we want to know your favorite player. And Duran, I'm gonna let you go first again.
Yep, I see the jersey back there. I'm going with Sean Taylor.
All right, you're gonna go with Sean Taylor. I'm gonna throw out a curveball here because I know that he was actually one of my favorite. When they were called the Redskins, he was actually one of my favorite Redskins. Damn it, I have a couple now that I said that.
Can only choose one.
Yeah, all right, man. I'm gonna go with Champ Bailey.
The champ.
Champ. It's unfortunate what happened to Champ, man. I'll never forget Dan Snyder for that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Look, I
was-
love Clinton Portis. Clinton Portis is the man. It's just we had a lockdown corner for a decade that we could have had, and we just pissed it away. For no disrespect to Clinton Portis, he was very productive for us in a sense. But if you on the current team I have obviously multiple, but you without a doubt is Terry McLaurin, just because I've always loved the dude, believed in him. But all time, I mean, it's Sean Taylor. I mean, he was the epitome of what this team kind of represented in a way, where the fierceness on defense and the kind of grit, the power, strength of the Hogs, that kind of determination. And like when you had Sean on the field, it was kind of like having a good quarterback where you knew you always had a chance. One of my favorite memories of watching this team was actually against Dallas. You guys were at FedEx Field. You're about to kick the game-winning field goal with Bill Parcells, and the field goal gets blocked. And Sean Taylor scoops it up. As he's returning it, he gets his face mask pulled. I was at work when I was watching this, and I was jumping him down. I'm like, oh my God, add 15 on this. And he was able to get them into position so they could kick the field goal to win. When they're supposed to lose by a field goal with only 15 seconds left on the clock, this dude somehow puts them in a way to get in position to win the football game. And I thought that it's probably like the epitome of who Sean Taylor was for this football team and what he brought to the fan base. And it's and the crazy thing is his death is even crazier because to think that these dudes were coming in to rob his house, they had guns, they had weapons, and this man went underneath his bed and grabbed a machete. Like he grabbed a machete, dude. Like how badass is that? Like, oh my goodness. No
Yeah, I
wonder they
mean,
shot through the door.
Yeah.
he put the team on his back, just like his ending days. He put his personal team, his family on his back, and did what he did. Not only to the like you said, like what he did for that fan base in Washington, but the fan base like overall in football. I remember hearing, watching him at the U, and man, hearing that he came in recruited and Clinton Portis is like worried about, or was it Clinton Portis or McGahee at the time? They had a plethora of running backs there. They were scared because he came in as running back, and he's like, "Well, no, he wants to try out DB." And man, did he? I mean, obviously he succeeded. Man, he has so many like great hits. I mean, I don't know if he'd be in the league today, but nah, actually he probably will because that man was a ball hawk. But man, what he did in the Pro Bowl, like how the punishing hits that he did.
Oh yeah, dude. In the one Monday night game, that Mark Brunell threw the 2 touchdown passes to Santana Moss in that fourth quarter to beat Dallas. Sean Taylor had a huge play in that game to break up the pass. I think was it the Terry Glenn? Am I mistaken by that? Where he broke up the pass where it forced him to punt, which gave him the ability to score the second touchdown. So like his fingerprints are all over that stuff, man. And what the crazy part is, he went down to Florida because his house had been broken into the week before, and he was worried about his wife and daughter. Like, how, man, that's such a crazy and stupid, crappy scenario that even had to unfold. Because he was special, man. Like you said, he was built like a linebacker and could run like a wide receiver, and he could hit like a train. And it's unfortunate because he like really started to get it as a man. There's like legendary stories of him running to practice. Come on, dude.
Yep. And his instincts were just off the chain. I think that's where you kind of mentioned he's one of those guys where when you have him on your team and they just know when to make the right play at the right time, I'd pay millions of dollars to have that guy. And
we talk about his like swag, like what he wore on the field,
the face mask,
whether from the tape face mask, the tape fingers or gloves, or the mirrored face mask like he wore at the U. Like, man, seeing if
the towel sticking out in the front,
I'd be pissing down my leg if I'm going across. Like, I've been across the middle a couple times, but man, if I'm going across the middle knowing that guy's there,
did you see the
alligator arm?
There was a video that was uploaded on Twitter earlier, I think like a month or so ago. And it was Washington playing against the Detroit Lions at the time. And there was some special teamer who was like yapping at Washington as they ran out of the tunnel. And after they run out in the tunnel, they go to the center field, and they all like huddle up there, the Washington players. Well, as they're running on the field, he's talking crap to Washington, like he's talking to Sean. And so Sean goes over to that huddle, and at the whole time he turns around and is just staring at dude, like swaying back and forth, just staring at him, not saying anything, just staring at him. And as he leaves, like walks away, he just shakes his, like nods his head at him and walks away. Later on in that game, there's a kick return where that dude comes out and Sean literally destroys him and takes him off of his feet. And it's just like, this dude was born to play football.
Hey, real quick, fellas, let's get a moment of silence for John Taylor. Moment of silence.
Beautiful.
Shout out Sean Taylor. Hey, thanks for the memories, man. Man, we can go on for days about Sean Taylor. Like, we can make a whole episode about Sean Taylor.
Of course. Are there any previous Redskins or now Commanders players that you feel like are a little bit underrated that deserve a little bit more shine?
Yeah, people may have forgotten about this player, and that player is
oh crap. I would say Cam Curl, but obviously he's been rated by Pro Football Focus, one of the best safeties in the NFL up until this point. So I feel like his kind of praise has been washed away a little bit. I'll say Jamin has done a lot better, but Benjamin St-Juste has really impressed me at the cornerback position, where at the beginning of the season, nobody was really talking about him as a possibility of starting and being concerned that he'd be out of the lineup, if that makes sense.
Minnesota kid, right?
Yeah. To the fact that where he's out against the Giants and people are saying, well, we can get Benjamin St-Juste back next week. That could change a lot of things. And that kind of really surprised me to this point. I think that he is somebody because I do a lot of film breakdowns and on draft prospects, usually in the offseason, but during the season, it's on the Commanders. And I saw some glimpses of him against wide receivers where he's like, he mirrors Alan Lazard, and he like literally is like with him every step of the way. And I was like, dude, that is not that, like, that's not normal, you know, like that's something that you don't see every day. And so I'm glad to see that he is finally getting that starting job. Just hopefully he stays healthier going down the stretch here and really proving himself, because that play against Chicago on the goal line to end Thursday Night Football to get the victory there, his play on that ball was the difference maker in the start of their winning streak. So without a doubt, Benjamin St. Juice.
Nice.
Yeah,
I got to keep an eye on him. I haven't watched him very much.
I remember
and number 25.
Yeah, he was a Senior Bowl guy.
Yep.
Yeah,
and their coaches were there, so they got a good look at him.
Yeah, that's something that we always keep an eye on, and something that me and Duran here definitely want to go to. We want to go to this Senior Bowl out in Mobile. It sounds like a great time, and we always actually like have get-togethers and like we talk about the show and watch the Senior Bowl highlights. And I remember seeing this kid and they're like, oh yeah, kid's raw, like he's an ex-receiver that turned, corner, and I was like, well, you can see it because like he was guessing is what was his knock, but to hear you say like, man, he was mirroring, that's like, man, looks like he was running routes for him. And that's something that I know that seeing him play in the division and actually on our team, but Richard Sherman would do a lot. He's built kind of similar to him as well.
Very similar.
But man, he runs routes for the receivers, and it's good to see. Yeah, I was unfortunate to see him hurt, but yeah, I need to watch more games and look out for number 25 because he sounds like a boy.
I don't think that he practiced today. I have to look at the injury report. But we're hoping that he does come back because he does make a good play on the ball as well. Long, lanky kid, a lot like Richard Sherman in a sense, and he's aggressive, man. He's got one of the coolest celebrations as well. It's like some French thing where he's like this and he goes like this, like does 2 squares. It's really cool, man.
Nice.
Nice.
Let's move on, G.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I think we have an idea, but this is not something we're gonna guess on. You can tell us right now, but we want to know who your favorite coach is of the Washington football team, Commanders, Washington organizations.
History.
Your favorite coach of all time that you like, that you have close to your heart.
I mean, it's without a doubt, it's Joe Gibbs, just because of what he represents and him kind of being the saving grace for this fan base and for this team in a sense, where they even had to hire him, obviously he got Sean Taylor, drafted Sean Taylor. Obviously, it wasn't him solely, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But without a doubt, it's Joe Gibbs. But Ron Rivera is up there for me. I think because for me, I find like working for Washington, it takes a certain type of person to be able to be successful here. Because a lot of people would come here knowing the kind of leadership involved and knowing that you don't have full control, and they'll throw you to the wayside by any time to make themselves look better at a moment's notice. I can understand where somebody would just look to come here to make money. So I was begging for somebody just to say, I'm willing to take the challenge of going here and telling Dan Snyder to sit down, shut up. This is what's going on. And Rivera has done that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably, I think, one of the most important things for me. And that's why like a lot of the fan base is like so pro Snyder, but I am, but I also understand what could also that mean if he were to sell. That could mean Rivera's gone, what he's built is gone, that everything could be brought back down. And it's just more waiting for winning seasons after 20 years of doing it, when we could possibly be building a sustainable product at the moment. And that could all be washed away simply because the one thing that caused all the cancer, all the craziness, all over that 20 years is the same reason why this one would be taken away in a short time. And it's just unfortunate that that's the case. And that's what I don't want to have happen. But it's out of my hands, man. It is what it is.
I think that'd be a real bad move, just because who else would you want rather than Ron Rivera? He's a guy that could handle an ownership change. And
that's actually something you said when he was a free agent. Before he took the job. I'm gonna give you credit, Duran. You said that.
I wanted Ron Rivera instead of Mike McCarthy. We both hired new coaches the same year. And I was a big Ron Rivera fan. And just like you said, he could look Dan Snyder in the face and tell him what the fuck's going on. And Jerry Jones is not easy to deal with. And I think that's also why Jerry Jones didn't want him there. It's like, you know what I mean?
Doubt.
It's like he doesn't want someone challenging him, and
Absolutely.
Ron Rivera is that guy. So, yeah, I understand why he went there, and I think he's done a really good job.
And it's really unfortunate because I'm not even sure if like Ron Rivera would want to take that next challenge, because not only did he have to take the challenge of knowing what was going to happen here, he got cancer right after getting here, then coached through the cancer the whole time, which is absolutely insane to me. And then had to go through the sexual assault allegations, had to answer for all the ownership changes because they had no structure in the organization. So he didn't have anybody to answer these questions except for Ron Rivera. So he had a lot on his plate already. And then you get the name change, the reveal, all this other allegations coming, now the sell of ownership. And it's like, at this point, after cancer, after everything, it's like, do you want to continue doing that?
Yeah.
Going through an ownership change. And that's the problem, the issue that I have, because who are we going to go to? We've gone down the young head coach route. We did that with Jay Gruden, and with that ended with him sitting Indian style outside of a bar smoking a joint with a co-ed. So I don't think that I want to go down that path again, but it is what it is.
I feel you. And we just got to shout out Joe Gibbs. You mentioned him. 2 stints for the Washington football team, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 2-time coach of the year.
Only coach to win it with 3 different quarterbacks.
That's just what I was about to say.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, you know your team better than I do, and that's so impressive. I mean,
that's why we brought you on here, Kyle.
Yeah. We see guys go on these runs with the same quarterback, the same system, the same this, and Joe Gibbs. I mean, there's not many, Bill Belichick, but there's not many coaches you could put above him in all this.
Yeah, and I do bring up that argument because I used to make the argument that Tom Brady wasn't the greatest quarterback of all time, because I would say it's the chicken or the egg argument.
Yeah.
Like, can you say that Tom Brady would win as many championships if he didn't have Bill Belichick, and vice versa? I feel the same way for Bill Belichick as a coach. Would he win 6 championships without Tom Brady? And that's the one question I have. So I say that Joe Gibbs, without a doubt, is the best coach of all time, simply because of that stat with 3 separate quarterbacks.
Yep.
I do think that is something to be said for. And then you can talk about the other guys like, oh my God, Joe Montana, Bill Walsh. Those guys are the chicken or the egg argument. And so, like, it's kind of where I think the argument should rather be quarterback and coach rankings duos. Yep. Rather than being coach, because I think coach straight up, I think Joe Gibbs wins it.
Yeah, and Joe Gibbs didn't do it back-to-back years or 3 within 5. This was over 11 years span, 10-year span. But, and there was one 82, 87, and 91. And we know the NFL, between 92 and 87, you have a completely different team. There's not many guys that last that long in the NFL. So, yeah, shout out Joe Gibbs. He might be one of those guys that deserves a little bit more credit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love like interviewing guys like Doc Walker who played back then, because their mindset on things, and where he talks about how getting to the playoffs or winning because it was like that was extra money for them, and like that was what all that they cared about, and being hungry, and the way that he talks about football, it's really cool to be able, because I wasn't able to experience that. So by being able to interview these guys, ask them these questions and how they look, it is kind of cool to kind of see how they play the game from that aspect, because I wasn't able to witness them at a young age.
While we're on the talk of coaches, I'm just curious, and this is not a jab or anything like that, so don't take it like that. But so there's always, whenever either, my team, the 49ers, are playing, and they're playing against Sean McVay, what happens twice a year. You had all these like head coaches now that were on that staff. Like, how do you feel as a Washington fan, knowing that those guys were on your staff and they went on to pretty much do better than what your team, did? I mean, you got McVay, won a Super Bowl, et cetera, can go on and so forth. How do you feel about that? I've always been curious, like, damn, man, like, that's awesome. We got all these head coaches and all these teams are great. How do you feel as a, Washington fan knowing that?
Simply put, kind of talked about what I said earlier. where it's like where we have these short stints of success that aren't sustainable. That brings up Sean McVay, where he showcased so much in such a short period of time and was so young that somebody was willing to put their entire franchise at stake for him. And there was nothing Washington could do short of firing Jay Gruden and hiring him right away. And he was way too young. And so they like not saying way too young, but obviously he was successful, but just being it from like that kind of standpoint where they don't have like, I think Bruce Allen and Snyder had those balls at that time to pull that trigger and do that, make that decision. They didn't want to hold that. Like they give it to Zorn, but they won't do it to Sean McVay, which I find laughable. But the other ones like Kyle Shanahan, that's a direct result of Dan Snyder and RG3. And that's the unfortunate part. The Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, obviously Kevin O'Connell was with Sean McVay, and that kind of went awry. But I think that was more natural than anything. Mm-hmm. I know that we tried to retain Kevin O'Connell, but he had other ventures that he wanted to go to. He wanted to look better, man. And I understand that. He wanted to go follow Sean to LA and do his offense, and they do work well together. So it made sense. But with Kyle Shanahan, that it's a direct result of Snyder gassing up RG3 to the point where he thinks he could walk into Shanahan's office and tell him what offense he's running. And it just caused turmoil, which led because Kyle Shanahan was supposed to take over. I used to tell people all the time, why are you guys complaining about Kyle Shanahan? He's not a daddy's boy. He didn't get it just because he sucks. The dude is a very good play caller. He's a genius, offensive genius is what I would say. Mm-hmm. And so it's unfortunate that we just can't enjoy things. We kick them to the curb and not knowing what we actually have. Because that's one thing Washington as an organization has never been able to do is promote from within and creating success. Usually the talent leaves in a very bad, dramatic way.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel that way about Sean Payton. Sean Payton was the offensive coordinator or offensive assistant for 4 or 5 years for Dallas. Then he gets the head coaching job with New Orleans, and Dallas was in dire need of a head coach the entire time he was there. So,
Zimmer and Lynn.
It happens
too, right?
Yep. Yeah. But give me Sean Payton with the offense. I think that would have been set up for success.
Absolutely, dude. Sean Payton he's a good head coach. I'm wondering if he's licking his chops to go to Denver because they're wondering if maybe he's going to get sacked.
I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it'd be a prime place for him to go to. Yep. But he does love playing indoors, and I'm sure that Jerry and him are very cozy, have a very good relationship. So it wouldn't surprise me if he pulled what he did with Jimmy Johnson back then. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be unfamiliar.
Yep.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Let's not forget though, Jerry's gonna have to give up a lot of power. Sean McVay is going to be the guy that's going to be calling out the players he wants and stuff like that. And
that's a good point.
Jerry doesn't want to bring in a guy and say, "Hey, let's give him credit. He came in and won."
Right. You're right.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Hasn't Steven taken more of a decision-making role?
He has, and I think that's why we've had more success.
More chill.
Yeah, we've had more success lately than but yeah. Let's keep on talking Commanders, G. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's talk Commanders. And as a Commanders fan like yourself, we want to know what is like your most fondest memory about being a fan. Like what it could be, receiving, seeing that your son, cheering on with his dad. It can be, your first game. What is your most fondest, most favorite, treasured memory that you got?
It's gonna be really lame. It's probably when we snuck 10 to 15 beers in the FedEx field, and we just sat there and drank beers and watched. I think it was a regular season game. It was a primetime game.
And why was that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were up in the nosebleeds. There wasn't much security there, so we just put them in our sweatshirts. I was able to finagle my way out of the stadium and then go to the tailgate after I had scanned my ticket. So I basically wasn't supposed to be allowed in, but I convinced the guy working this one gate to allow me in. And he told me to bring him back a beer. So I did. And so that was probably one of my fondest memories, just because I felt like I was watching football for very cheap. I was drinking for free. And that's something that Dan Snyder would have hated. And I was enjoying the heck out of it. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
Go ahead, As a beer fan, I'm just curious, what was the beer? Was it worth it?
Probably was. It probably wasn't Court. It was Bud Light, if I can remember. Just because that was at the
Bud Light. What?
Yeah.
Well, they weren't charging us any money or anything, and we didn't have any booze. And so like they were just like, yo, like come get some beers. And so we went there and we just stuffed all of our stuff because we were going back to the stadium. I had convinced the gate guy that my friend was really drunk and didn't know where he was. I had to get him back and I know I scanned my ticket, but if I come back, will you allow me in? He's like, yeah, just bring me a beer. I said, all right, cool.
Yeah.
That's
I'm sorry.
awesome.
I know I'm a Yingling type of dude. I mean, I'm not
Okay.
like a hardcore type of like beer drinker or some of my buddies are, all your different breweries and everything like that. But I just like Yingling. Just
Yep.
it's my thing.
That's like the Budweiser, right?
It's not
Yingling, no.
Budweiser. It's
No?
Yingling's the oldest brewery in the United States. But I got put onto it when I was in Boston.
Gotcha.
I think it's a East Coast beer.
Oh, is it really?
Okay,
I didn't
gotcha.
know that.
Nah, it's not out here.
Oh.
It's not in
Yeah.
California.
So in California out here, we're really about microbreweries and that craft beer and everything like that. If you're interested, we can send something your way, possibly, especially around Christmas time. We'd love that.
Oh, of course, dude.
Let us know. We'll send you a care package.
Yeah, we'll send you a care package. Sure, just send me your info and everything like that.
We just went to a brewery not too long ago in Harper's Ferry with my family to celebrate my mom's birthday. And that's a really cool place because it's like right over Harper's Ferry and overlooking the bridge, real high up, and really good beer too, man. They had one called Bass Rock, which is also great because that was like our fishing hole not our fishing hole. That's where we went to go party and drink and do stuff because it's with the trifecta of 3 different states. So nobody has jurisdiction in this little place. And there's 2 big rocks. Everyone would just jump into the river Potomac into.
Well, if me and Duran are over out there in the DMV, we'll definitely hit you up for sure.
There's people that still go.
I was just there. there.
No, that's right.
Yeah. I was less than a year ago.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, man, just send me your info, man. We'll send you a care package. Just a little love from our breweries out here in Sonoma, Cali.
That'd be really nice of you, man. That'd be really cool.
Sure, man. That'd be great.
I want to bring up a good memory that I have written down on here. I don't have too many Washington football team memories, but the RG3 rookie year, I mean, come on, not many people can deny that one. It was pretty dynamic. 27 total touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. The Redskins won on a 7-game winning streak. They won the NFC East. Alfred Morris, 1,600 yards rushing. I mean, just that duo of those two were so exciting. Bring me back. What were you thinking during that year specifically?
Good one.
It's really funny. The first game against the Saints, the one pose RG3 has him sitting on the ground pointing up after he throws a touchdown to Pierre Garçon to start that game. I was at work and I was watching on my phone. And it's funny because going into that season, everyone kind of expected us to be 4th in the division. We just got a rookie quarterback. It's going to take them time to get acclimated. Nobody was really hyped up about them. And so I was watching sports. Have you ever watched Sports Center games on your phone, like where it doesn't actually show the game?
It's the dots.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So like I was on there, so I was cooking on the grill, and I remember seeing right as soon as the game started, I looked over and it was 7-0 watching. I was like, "Whoa, damn! Like that doesn't happen. Like how did we score a touchdown already?" So I went back to cooking and looked back. It was like 14-0. I was like, "What is going on?" Then 21. And I was like, "What in the world is happening?" So that was my awakening to what was going on. And then I'll never forget the Minnesota run that RG3 had. We were watching it in my basement and we were getting hammered. And we just like, that was probably the loudest that house has ever been in, to be perfectly honest. That run was magical. And it's one that because after that season, it went away so quickly. Mm-hmm. And so one thing for me is just enjoy the ride while it's there. And that's what I've been trying to tell the fan base at this time. It's just like, look, I understand you guys don't like Taylor, but like with 2012, it went by so fast. And like that time was so happy, was so much fun to actually have a powerhouse, to be winning football games in a convincing fashion, not something that we're used to. And so that's kind of what I go back to now. It's just like, just enjoy the ride. Don't argue about quarterbacks. Don't argue about what's going to happen in the playoffs or ownership. Let's just enjoy this ride or whatever the heck this is. Let's just enjoy it because they're playing great football right now.
So what you were saying is Washington country, let's ride.
Oh, goodness, dude. The memes, man. The memes are crazy. I don't know what I talked big about that offense too, because I thought that they were going to be churning, no problem. Because I mean, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, you could replicate what Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf can do very well. And then with Javonte Williams, you're like, okay, they're going to replicate what they had with Chris Carson. It's going to be an easy transition for Russell Wilson. completely opposite.
I didn't see that coming, man, at all.
Horrible.
I thought they were going to be a powerhouse.
Yeah. Well, Jordan Schultz even said on the Pat McAfee show, it's like, well, they're giving him too much power. Like, hey, man, now you can throw. You can be a Drew Brees. Like, instead of like, man, you're great, like, handoff first, then read type of guy.
Right.
Like how you were with Pete Carroll. And
every quarterback is. If you have a run game and you can play action, every quarterback's better.
I feel like he's lost that escapability aspect of his game. I think I felt like that's what separated him back then. And I felt like maybe he wanted to be more like Tom Brady in a sense, and he wanted to not do that anymore. And I think that takes away from his game, honestly, because he was always a shifty kind of guy. I'll never forget that turnaround spin touchdown pass that he had. I mean, it was beautiful, a ballet-esque.
You know about it. RG3, think he wanted to transition into the pocket passer as well, and the best part of his game
started on that.
Yeah, I mean, in Baylor, man, like he was a pocket passer with speed, and I know him and Kendall Wright were just.
It's debatable. It's debatable to say that because I understand it's pocket passer, but they also didn't call plays at Baylor. All they did was the hand signals, and that's so true. When you come into the NFL, it's a whole different animal, and you have to call these long, complicated plays and stuff. That was probably one of the biggest glaring warning signs that we all didn't notice.
Yeah, it's because that's why it was a little bit easier going from RG3 in that Shanahan system to Kirk Cousins.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt in my mind. That's exactly why they pulled the trigger on Kirk Cousins, because they didn't believe that this guy could progress as a pocket quarterback. They saw him for what he was, and that was a track star with an arm. And they made it things easier for him at Baylor. But when you get to the NFL, it's not easy for you. Because one of the times I lost respect with RG was when he called out the offensive line. And he said, well, Aaron Rodgers' guys are blocking for him. Tom Brady's guys are blocking for him. But I'm like, dude, do you understand? Like, they traded a bunch up for you. That means that you're supposed to be good without them, essentially. And you have to understand that. And that's why they traded up for you. And that's probably my biggest gripes about that time is like no self-awareness to an extent. Like, he still blames a lot of his injury on saying because he was used improperly. You weren't used improperly. You were used how you could only be used, and you got injured because you were a track star and not a football player.
Yeah.
It's funny that he tried to get on the 49ers when they drafted Trey Lance. They said they need a quarterback like myself to teach them this. And I was like, weren't you complaining?
Dude, he's always trying to get jobs, man. But I always say, like, Lamar, like, look at Lamar Jackson and watch how Lamar Jackson runs the football. He is so smart in the way that he knows when to run out of bounds. He knows when to slide. He never gets hit. Getting RG3 to slide was like pulling teeth. It was like when he got to Cleveland, he made a joke about it and said he was like, guys, I've been working on sliding. And it's like, you're admitting that?
Yeah.
Come on, dude. Like, that's supposed to be a natural thing, and you're joking about that. And it's unfortunate because his head got so big to the point where he thought that he could dictate what went on, and he thought that he was a pocket passer, and not realizing they can't get the ball out of his hands because he can't read a defense. Never had to.
Yeah,
and that's unfortunate.
So, earlier you mentioned, and I agree with you, like, we don't have basements here in California, but you said that you usually watch some games like getting hammered in your basement.
Well, you used to.
Because are you used to? Because you're around your boys, you feel, that's similar to my game setup. I'm around my boys. We're in my boy's garage. He has a little bar set up. We call it Crease Tavern. Shout out to Chris. It's a really good setup.
That's really cool.
I'm curious, now that you said that, I'm curious about what's your game day setup now? I know you got 2 kids, a wife. What's your game day setup now? Are you like a live streamer and whatnot? Like,
No. I watch the game. If I'm at home, I'm just watching the games on my TV upstairs. I don't even have this is really my setup. All my jerseys are in my closet or whatever. Because my wife is she has she has an eye for aesthetics. And she does not allow that. So I get my little section, my little pocket of space to record and have my memorabilia safe and away from people in sight.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm in the same boat.
Yep.
Yeah, I got the garage.
I wish I could make enough money one day where I could just build my own little room and say, look, this off limits,
Studio.
Yeah, but I mean, hey man, happy wife, happy life.
Absolutely, you get
It
it.
goes
You get it.
without saying, man, because like
Yeah.
I'll be watching the game and she'll be in there. She goes, "We have to watch football like right now. It's Thursday." I'm like, "All right, fuck it. I'm going over to my cousin's house." Like, you know what I mean? Like you watch
I
whatever
have
you
a
want.
I
Watch
have
your
an
Mark
ongoing
Michigan.
joke with my wife where I I give her a hard time. So like what I'll say is, like tomorrow's Daddy's Day, tomorrow's Sunday, and she's
Yeah.
like,
There
"What do
you
you
go.
mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? We have 2 kids, Kyle."
Yeah. You're a dad every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we have to get into some bad memories because we just covered the best memories that you had. Do you have a worse memory being a
I'm gonna grab a beer for that. Go ahead.
Washington football fan? It could be a loss in the playoffs. I mean, a player injury, draft bust, anything like that.
Probably the worst loss. It's easy. It's the Monday Night Massacre. My
Mhm.
family are big Virginia Tech fans, so going with my little brother to that game, seeing Michael Vick, us being on that end zone side where Michael Vick was, seeing the play fake, seeing Deshaun Jackson run across us from right to left, seeing Michael Vick's hands behind his back, pull that arm out with the football and being like, oh no. And just knowing what was happening to that game. And that was probably one of the worst. But the worst was the playoffs loss in 2012. Because I think that we actually had a legitimate chance to win that game. And with RG3 getting hurt, it was just kind of it was a dramatic ending. And I remember I was hammered, but I remember going up to my room all by myself, dude, all the way from my boys, and just sitting there and just being like, damn, like that's it. That's it. Maybe a part of me knew that was never going to happen again, but that was just
That that was a
terrible
tough
ending.
one. I mean, looking back on that Seattle team you guys lost to, those were some studs on there.
Dude, there was,
Marshawn Lit, yeah.
and we were up, I think 13-0 or
Oh
sixteen to
man.
zero at one point early on in that game, and then RG3 gets injured, and then Russell Wilson, and then they work themselves back into it, and it's whatever.
Yep. I see it right here, 14-0. You're up with 2 minutes left in the first quarter. But yep, started off hot and damn, RG3, that injury. I think that was one that I had written down. RG3's 2012 injury hit by Haloti Nada.
Yep,
That
that's the
one.
game I was at with my wife. Yep.
Yep. ACL versus the Seahawks. I think we covered Sean Taylor. Of course, that was a bad memory. I want to get into a couple of the whatever signings or draft stuff. Albert Hainsworth, that was
Uh,
the notorious. I think it was $100 million. Was it back then?
oh yeah.
$100 million, and he never lived up to the contract. It seems like right when he got paid, he knew that was it for him. I don't know if it was faking injuries or just not wanting to be out there putting in the work,
Being
but
a bonehead.
being a bonehead. I mean,
He was just partying nonstop.
yeah,
He did what a lot of guys do, and they got paid. And dude, it's a lot of money, and they are comfortable in a
yep,
sense. And that's why I love a guy like Terry McLaurin. That's why he's one of my favorite players, like Jonathan Allen. Even though they got paid, they're still hungry. They're still out there giving game speeches, trying to get the guys fired up in an authentic way, not in a way like RG3 used to. I mean, when you
yeah,
try to hear him try to pipe up stuff, you're like, dude, did you write this at home? Like, did you rehearse this in the mirror? This is awkward
yeah.
and
Hard
very
knocks
weird.
aren't here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no cameras are here. You're
Drew
fine.
Brees was like that too,
Yes,
man. I
of
could not
course.
stand that. But like, so having a guy like that is something that's really important. And Albert Hainsworth was not that. He was a complete opposite. He
Mm-hmm.
was a fish, just out in dry land, just flopping, and that's all he did, and that's all he wanted to do. Which just sucks because I remember that day when they signed him. I was with my buddy
Mm-hmm.
Freddie. I was like, "Yeah, we got Albert Hainsworth. This is awesome. It's going to add to our defense." And then he just pouted like a child because he didn't want to play in a 3-4 and be a nose in a 3-4. He wanted to be in the 4-3 D end or not
Play any.
three 4-3 D
Yep.
tackles.
I'll play any defense you want. Pay me $100 million.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
That's what
do
everyone
whatever
else
you
is
say.
saying.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, be like the way get behind your team, be fiery, after wins or losses. I mean, everyone makes this kind of like a pundit, as in Kirk Cousins saying you like that, but he came after a reporter saying like, oh yeah, like putting him down and everything like that. And as soon as he won a big game, like he was hyped and his whole team was hyped around him. He finds that reporter and says, "You like that? You like that?" It's awesome to see.
It
You know,
is.
Like be fiery. Like have respect for your teammates. You know, like
And
Albert wasn't that guy.
no, and honestly, dude, it's unfortunate that you're a 49ers fan because I miss my boy Trent. Um,
I love my guy Trent.
I miss him
Yep.
every day.
Next jersey I'm buying actually.
Him punching Richard Sherman in the face after that playoff loss was probably one of the most awesome things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman was playing like such a tool that game. He kept pushing Pierre after the whistle and stuff, and it was just he was just trying to egg him on. It's just Trent was tired of him. Trent went to punch him in the mouth. Never forget that dude, man. I would always tell people he's the best left tackle in the league, and they would always talk about Tyron Smith. They'd talk about David Bakhtiari. They talk about what's his face in Philadelphia back in the day, Jason Peters. Like, dude, no, you guys don't understand. This dude's a freak of nature. You have no idea.
It's crazy. Like when we signed him, and I know he was coming off that cancer scare and injury and everything like that. To seeing him box jump, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? This guy's jumping higher than I am. Like, it's crazy.
Dude, him in the screen. In the screen game, it's insane, dude. He's literally running with the running back full speed, barreling over dudes and not missing a step. His athleticism is uncanny. He really is a freak of nature in every sense of the word. And he's a dog at the point too.
Yeah,
he's
he is
one of
those
guys.
He's like a team guy as well. Like he takes a lot of the linemen underneath his belt. And like you see like these like we have a rookie guard in Burford that we drafted, and like he took him underneath his wing, and another guy on a practice squad, Jason Poe, took him underneath his wing, and they're standouts. You know what I mean? Like he's our other guy's still on practice squad, but he's on practice squad just kind of keep everything on hush. And I think that's awesome. And like you said earlier, I mean, Shanahan, he's an offensive genius, and to see him see Trent Williams to go in motion against
with Christian
Packers,
McCaffrey.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It's stupid.
Like shit.
Kittle, Debo. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just stupid.
Unstoppable. That's
Absolutely
the guy you pay. You don't pay Albert Haynes, or you pay that guy.
And I'm so glad that we did pay him.
Yeah.
Seriously. He deserves it, man. That dude, he's worth every penny. And a lot of people got on him because either injuries or because he missed time because of weed or stuff like that. And it's just unfortunate because Trent's time here, as much as everyone likes to gloat and talk about how great it was now, it's not the way he was treated when he was here, man. Nope. People would literally argue against Trent being the best left tackle in the league, and I'll never forget that.
Nope. I got one more bad memory, and then we can move on. It's a quick one. What was the biggest draft bust? Haskins, Darius Geis, or Josh Doxson? They were all high draft picks. I don't know exactly where, but definitely within the first 2 rounds.
Or is there somebody that we don't know of?
You could throw one out there.
No, I mean, I think RG3 without question, just because of the draft capital and just one season of production worth. I don't think it was worth the draft compensation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where Dwayne Haskins was just one pick, you know, where Darius Geis was a second rounder. So it wasn't really that much of a huge letdown to an extent, also being a possible sexual deviant running around out there. But
no, I get it with the draft capital.
The Doxson one hurts though. It does, because that was like, dude, he had an injury early on where they did all these tests, all these x-rays, and they could not find his injury, and he wouldn't play. And so like I would ask, like, is he scared? Like, is he literally scared of playing in the NFL, like the speed of the NFL? And that was always a concern of mine with that injury, because he kept saying he had pain, and they were like, dude, we've done every test possible and there's nothing there. So it's like all you at this point. But hey,
that's interesting.
You said Josh Doxson,
Darius Geis, Dwayne Haskins,
and Dwayne Haskins. I don't want to say Dwayne.
Yeah, I feel you.
To go poorly on Dwayne, because I've already done enough talking on Dwayne up to this point, everything that happened with him, and I was very cool.
Geis was just self-sabotage shit.
So I'll say RG3, when I know a lot of people will say that's really stupid to say, but I'm just based on what it was supposed to be and what we gave up for it and what we got. Because, dude, after his injury, it was like he was like a bottom tier quarterback. I'll never forget when he was the quarterback for us that one season before he left for Cleveland. He got sacked. I'm not sure, like a crazy amount of times. He blamed the O-line. The next season, Kirk Cousins is the starter, and RG3 goes to Cleveland. RG3 gets injured, I think, 3 or 4 games into the season. He has, like, I think 9 sacks or something during that time. Kirk Cousins had 9 sacks in 16 games on him during that same time. So my question was it the O-line or was it the quarterback? And that is one of my issues with a lot of people's quarterback takes and O-line takes and saying O-lines are trash because getting the ball out quick and on time and being decisive about things like Kirk Cousins is and like Dak Prescott is, that's how you can be successful in this league. And the smart quarterbacks that aren't crazy athletic understand that. And there's guys that made a lot of money in this league, like Alex Smith, by just checking the ball down.
Exactly. Thank God for Kirk Cousins being drafted that same year.
Dude, who are you kidding, man? Yeah. My goodness.
Might have been a little awkward at first, but it worked out.
I'm not gonna lie to you, on social media, it was a race war. I mean, it straight up was during those tumultuous years with the Kirk Cousins versus RG3, because it was, you're a racist if you think that. If you think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback, it's simply because you don't like black quarterbacks. And it was like, dude, like, how do we have conversations about football with this going on? And I'll never forget that time. What a crazy time.
We might have a Lance versus Purdy next year. Same thing. Gave up 3 first-round picks, and then a guy in the late round is who's actually playing better.
It's Mr. Irrelevant.
You should have went. It should have been for Justin Fields. I thought pre-draft, I thought Justin Fields fit Kyle Shanahan's system to a T, and I thought that he would have done really well. I didn't think Trey Lance. I thought Trey Lance taking a step back his second season as a starter was a huge indication that he was being comfortable about things, and maybe he does do well and work hard and everything like that. It's just I wasn't willing to trade up all that draft capital for a quarterback like our fan base wanted Trey Lance so badly. Can't tell you how many arguments I got into people about this. Can't tell you.
He needs the reps.
Yeah, man. I mean, we can go on for about that, you know.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother podcast on
that. Yeah, long story short, I mean, Durant knows I wanted Justin Fields. I wasn't upset with the Trey Lance because I understand the attributes that he does have. He ran pretty smart, and then he threw the ball pretty good. He needed the reps. You know, it wasn't all there, so I understood the redshirt year. What Brock Purdy is doing right now, I mean, what I'm hearing from Trent Williams, honestly, like all the interviews, he's like, man, this guy is an asshole in practice. Like if a receiver runs the wrong route, even a scout team, he'll get on the scout team's receiver's ass. I'm like, fuck yeah. You know, that's awesome. You don't really hear that from Trey. Like Trey seems much of like a nice guy. But you know, I can go on for days about that. If you want to know, like, let me know, man. I
I got you. We'll talk next week for the 49ers game.
There you go. Yep.
Let's move on a little bit. We're going to want to know your future expectations for the Commanders. I mean, from this day on, moving forward, you
first thing 7-5 right now, right?
7-5
and 1.
And one. Oh, yeah, the tie.
Forgot about that tie.
The first thing that I just want to cover is free agency for next year. If you can kind of look into the future, you have 4 offensive players: Tyler Larson, Turner, the guard, Cam Sims, and Taylor Heineke. Are there any one of those guys you are set on bringing back this year or next year?
Well, Tyler Larson is a friend and a guest of our show. So as I'll say Tyler Larson, just because he came in this year, he worked really hard to get back to the team. And by the time he got back to us, we had been depleted without Chase Roullier, obviously the Pro Bowl center that we have. And so we kind of needed somebody, and he came in and helped, but he obviously got injured again. So I'll say Tyler Larson because we need that kind of solidifying centerpiece behind Chase Roullier in case that emergency does happen. But Tyler also has to stay healthy to an extent. I will say that. And then I think Taylor has earned it. A lot of people have lost sight of the fact that big question about Taylor coming out his first year was that could he stay healthy? And he did that last year. He stayed healthy. COVID took him out of that game. Going into this year, it was his arm strength. And he kind of did better with the arm strength, but I feel like he's lost his touch on passes with the gaining of the arm strength, and that's where he's kind of lacking at times. But I'm a Taylor guy. He's a blue collar kid. I appreciate everything he's done. I think he deserves a spot in this league, and I think he's a professional quarterback.
Yep. I agree. And I got 3 more on defense. Deron Payne, we know him, the big defensive tackle, F.A. Abada, and Cole Holcomb. Is there one of those guys you want to bring back?
Oh
All
yeah,
3?
Deron Payne, without a doubt. I
Yeah.
got to bring him back. I think he's 8.5 sacks on the season this year. He's been an absolute menace combined with Jonathan Allen with 7.5. They're obviously good friends. They fought at the Cowboys game in the locker room at halftime, and brothers fight, man. When it comes down to human nature, sometimes you need to respect one another, and usually that's with men. That's the one way we can get respect quickly and out of the way done. Is usually it's very easy for us to do. But Deron Payne, without a doubt, he solidifies, and that needs to be the kind of structure of our team is dominating the trenches. Do you feel like the O-line has taken a step back? F.A. Obata I think he deserves a chance to come back without a doubt. The UK boy has done an incredibly good job and coming in here and helping without Chase Young being in the building. So you're looking for that veteran guy who clicks with the locker room, works hard, and is a good physical freak. I think like 6'4", 6'5", pretty heavy set, big dude. So I'm interested in bringing F.A. Obata back, no problem. And Cole Holcomb, though, I do wonder about Cole and how they envision the future of the linebacker position because every year they keep losing less and less linebackers. So what they've done this year, instead of using 3 linebackers like in that 4-3, they use a 5-2. And so with Cole being hurt, they're probably going to bring him back, and it's going to be cheap because of the injury and because of the lack of stats and popping. But he is a high volume tackler. But if it's relatively cheap, I could see Cole coming back because we need the depth regardless. Our linebackers are thin. We're not in a position to walk away from them. As much as I want to say bring everybody back, it's unfortunate that they should bring those guys back.
Yeah.
Is Deron Payne a restricted free agent?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I think he fits in perfect, especially with your guys' edge rushers. That guy in the middle is a force. So bring him in, Sweat.
Hearing about trade targets and everything like that, he was one of the names that were thrown out there. And he's one of the guys that I actually pressed hard for. I was like, man, I love that as a trade. Then we saw how much we gave up for Christian McCaffrey, and it was well worth it. I was like, fuck. Like
Kyle knows what he's doing, man. He knows what he wants. He was like, dude, give me Christian McCaffrey, watch me do work.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll just outscore everyone.
Like his second game in, he did the trifecta, threw one, ran one, and fucking passed for one.
Yeah, he gets it.
I think we got to touch on this moving forward. Just the rumors about Schneider. I mean, if he's selling the team, give it whatever. I think it's inevitable. I don't know what you think or what side you're on, but complaints from losing seasons to rotating the head coaches to the, all the rumors. How do you feel about moving on with him or with him selling the team?
Honestly, he's impacted so much already, pissed me off to the point of breakdown. I'm just like, I don't really care what happens at this point. I just want to see winning football. And that's why I see what's happening with Rivera. And I like what's happening. And I just want to keep that. But at the same breath, I don't want this douche sticking his hands into everything again and ruining it because he feels safe. And that's what I don't want to have happen again, because over the past couple of years, he hasn't had his fingerprints really on much of the decision making. And that has been the one issue with this franchise is Dan sticking his nose in and screwing things up. And if he could possibly do that, if everything was not true, if he didn't do those things and everything, then fine, whatever. But I don't think it's going to happen, dude. I think he's going to get the last FU. And I think that he knows a lot of the movement against him has been based on his former owners that he screwed out of a lot of money. And he also knows that Jeff Bezos is seeing an opportunity to be able to influence a lot of these scenarios where the Washington Post are the ones that come out with these leaks somehow, where it's all pure speculation and hearsay. But that being said, I think that Snyder is not one. He holds grudges. I think as a 49ers fan, I think you know that pretty well. I think it's well documented that Kyle Shanahan and Snyder, they obviously do not like each other, right?
Yeah.
I don't see him bowing, as much as he likes money. I don't see him bowing down to Bezos and giving away his baby, which we all know Snyder knows at this franchise. I think he's going to get a last FU in, and he's going to sell it to somebody else. Yep. And I think it's going to be somebody you don't really know, don't really have an eye for. But Lord knows, because for me, the only reason Bezos brought in Jay-Z was just to get younger people on his side.
He's also already involved in the NFL, Jay-Z.
Yeah, so it's like the only reason he did was to appease people, and that alone. Because for me personally, I have I know Bezos has a lot of money, but my issue being is that if somebody is willing to go to those lengths and kind of pile on all that much and all that speculation and all that propaganda in order to force somebody out, I don't think that they should be in position in that power. I feel like if you're willing to go to that extreme, you shouldn't be able to have that power, to be perfectly honest, because Lord knows what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's one of my concerns with Bezos. I call him Xerxes from 300, because everyone's like, he's going to have a new stadium, blah, blah, blah. It's like when Xerxes comes up to Leonidas, like, your lands will be prospered. Blah. Same thing. I don't care, dude. Kick rocks.
Yep. And let's not forget, these owners have to vote in the next owner. And that's a guy that is really going to challenge these guys. So would they rather take the number 2 instead of Bezos? Because, you know, he's going to sit down. He's going to want to change the game. He's going to want to take it to another level and really shake
He's a control
shit up.
freak.
Yeah, exactly.
You're absolutely right about that.
Do they want a guy like that who's not afraid to sit down and in these all 32 meetings where it's just the owners is really going to, shake some shit up?
Yeah, you're without a doubt, you're right, dude. And I really do wonder how those, because it is a club, you have to be accepted into the club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's all it is. And so I do wonder who has that okay. But obviously the money goes so far with those guys. And no, I'm not sure how much it does manipulate the situation. Yeah. Obviously, of what he could provide and the connections and everything like that. But the dude already owns everything. He's got like grocery stores, he's got Amazon, he's doing freaking everything, dude. Don't give him football. Yeah, he's okay where he's at.
What if like you guys are like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna do what the Packers do?
Dude, that was my idea. That's what I wanted. I've been saying that for years. Yeah, ever since like this whole name change crap happened, everyone, the sexual assault allegations. I'm like, dude, if Snyder really wanted on a last ditch effort to amend it with the fan base, the loyal fan base of this team, he would do exactly that on his way out. He would allow for it to go to like the fan base to that extent and make it work. I know there's a lot of like bylaws and other crazy fine print stuff that says like it can't happen nowadays, but I think that it would be a gesture that would repair the relationship with the team as a parting gift from Snyder. But Lord knows that dude is not going to do the right thing.
Yeah. I don't really like that idea. I don't know what the no owner. I kind of feel like, at least, even though Dallas has an owner that likes to step the line, at least we have a guy that's calling the shots. We'll bring people into
the Packers still have the CEO.
They do, but I feel like it's all more of like a group voting thing. There's not one guy that could really sit down and pull the trigger. And hey, if Jerry Jones wants a guy, he can get it. If the Packers want it, who is it, Gutekunst? If he wants it, it's going to get passed down to 2-3 people. And obviously someone's probably going to say, no, the money, the cap. And, some of these guys just say, fuck it. This is our year.
It should come down to United States president being the commander in chief.
There you go.
So whoever's in office, gets to control the decisions for those years.
Oh, I like that.
There you go. Gee, I only got one more question. If you got anything left. All right. We know it's been 17 years now where NFC East has had a different winner of the division. It looks like this year it's going to be the Eagles. They're leaps and bounds above both of us, but that means, hey, one of us are open for next year. Who's going to win it next year?
Next year is going to be crazy because I think the Cowboys are at a crossroads. I said it from the get-go that re-signing Zeke was a gigantic mistake. Should not have done it. I thought paying Zach was the right thing. It's really funny. I had a Cowboys fan on Facebook tell me I didn't know football because when Tony Romo got hurt in the preseason, I said, with this offensive line, with this running game, and the wide receivers, they should go with Dak and let him start the new transition and lead the new franchise. Dude was like, you don't know football, obviously. I was like, look, man, I think Dak's a good quarterback. I think that's a good system to be in.
Yeah.
But my God, I lost. What was the question? But with Zeke being gone, I think the offense will be fine.
Mm-hmm. And I think, but Pollard's also up.
Is he really? I think you guys will give him money, but it's not going to command the same amount. Yeah, obviously. But the big question is defensively, what happens if Micah gets dinged? And I think that's probably a big question for Dallas that they never had to actually deal with. you know, and that is always because there's a 99% guarantee you're going to get injured in football. It's guaranteed. And so when that happens, I think that defense needs to get fixed up just a little bit, but probably Philly, to be honest. But I won't lie to you. I won't lie to you and say if we're able to get our hands on a quarterback somehow in the next year, I think that we can win the division. I think that we have shown the kind of structure, the way to play, because the way that we played Philly is a lot how we should be playing Dallas with those high-powered offenses.
Give me notes.
And that is essentially by grinding you out and keeping our defense fresh, keeping that offense off the field and not turning over the football, running the football consistently and being able to execute on third downs and move the chains. Keep that offense on the field, and that's how you win the football game. When you give Michael Parsons more than enough time and a lead, that's when problems arise. And I think this year was where the changes for this football team, where they're realizing, oh, this is the game plan. This is what we're supposed to do. And we know now that this structure of winning for us is very simple, but it's effective in the sense where we know exactly what we need to do. And if we don't check those boxes, most likely we lost. And I think there's a kind of beauty and simplicity in that. And so I feel like Washington, if they could get their hands on a quarterback that is, I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to say like a rookie or anything, but just somebody who is a tier up, say like, let's just say Lamar Jackson, for instance. I think that could happen.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you said it's damn near guaranteed that you get hurt playing in the NFL. Everyone except for Darryl Green.
Yeah.
It seemed like he played for 20 years and was on the field for every snap.
Dude, my goodness. One of my mom's favorite players.
Yeah,
Darryl
of
Green.
course.
Yeah.
And I like to say Terry McLaurin is the offensive version of Darryl Green.
Nice.
And just because of who he was as a person, just being that like not nationally known, but like that's our guy. Like we
Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Yeah. Like that's our dude. And that's how it is with Terry. Like for so long I was telling people this dude is elite. This dude is elite. And people were like, well, these guys are better. Look at their stats. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, he's played with 8 different quarterbacks.
Give him a break.
Like goodness. Like this is just like saying that Joe Gibbs isn't one of the best coaches because he won with 3 different quarterbacks. That's saying the same thing. That's something to be said for that. And I think that I like to call Terry a rose in the desert for us for that short period of time because he was the only glimmer of hope.
That's it for me, G. Great answer.
Yeah, that's it for me as well. Kyle, if you want to go ahead and shout out the work that you're working on as well, your podcast and everything, where everybody can find you, go ahead, have at it.
Appreciate you guys for having me on here, Duran and Gennaro. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk about my fandom. As boring as it is to sit here and talk about myself,
it's not.
It's awesome. Really fun to talk Commanders football and just in an open setting and not kind of just a confrontational, just want to run your mouth like you see on Spaces and stuff like that. But you can find me on the Burgundy Zone on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our show, The Burgundy Zone. We upload every Monday and Thursday evening. It'd probably be around 6 p.m. your time is when it gets uploaded for you guys out there. But you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all over. Just search for The Burgundy Zone. And, we got rated the best Washington fan podcast back in 2020. So that's something we like to hold dear to our heart. And we have expectations that we like to hold ourselves to. So I promise and I hope that you won't be disappointed.
You got it.
I doubt we will, man.
Yep. Same with us. You could find us on all those platforms too. Why We're Fans on YouTube and anywhere you find your podcasts. Gee, that's it for me.
Yeah, that's it for me as well. Kyle, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for listening. All right,
boys, I appreciate it.
Till the next time, man.
Good luck this season.
Thanks, boys.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle, man. Appreciate it.